Hello, everyone. Carlos Toro here. I'm joined by someone who you have absolutely have seen, whether you're a fan of boxing and hell, even some pro wrestling as of late. Ray Flores. Ray, you have done just about everything a guy in boxing media, from announcing to broadcasting to hosting events. Man, it is such an honor, and I'm so thankful for you to come on board. Ray, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Carlos. Hey, thank you very much for kind words. It's very much appreciated. And likewise, mutual respect. I admire you and your work ethic and what you do for the boxing community and combat sports. Love reading your stuff. I'm always happy to see you on Zoom press conferences or out and about. So, the admiration is mutual in that regard, my friend.
Appreciate it, Ray. And before we kind of get into everything that you've been up to, specifically in the last year or so, I gotta ask, how
Yes.
many frequent flyer miles have you accumulated over the past year? Because you've been everywhere, literally
Yeah.
everywhere.
Well, I mean, you know what? It was interesting because during the pandemic, people were not flying. I was the opposite. I was flying a lot. So last year I did about 80,000 miles. The past 4 or 5 years after that, it's been 100,000. So I come up on as much as I can. And whenever I can take a vacation at some point, I can at least fly to and from the city. So it's been a blast.
How different has it been for you to sort of work all these events and hosting these press conferences as we're going to get, for those of you who may not know, we're going to be recording this like about an hour before you're supposed to host the Andrew Ruiz, Chris Arreola pay-per-view undercard Zoom media call. How different has it been for you to sort of work these types of things online via Zoom, as opposed to doing things more in person, as we're all accustomed to have seen you do before the pandemic?
Well, Carlos, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm glad that boxing is back. Combat sports are rocking, and they've been thriving since June last year. So it was only a brief hiatus that we had away from the world. But if you're asking my honest opinion, which I'm going to tell you, it sucks because I miss being with the guys and having them next to me. And I miss seeing people like you out at these press conferences physically and getting an opportunity to talk with my friends from the media and fans and having grand arrivals on a big fight week and feeling that energy from the fans and being able to voice for them and them get autographs their favorite fighters. That's what makes our sport so great. The accessibility, because you go to a Laker game center, 99% of the time, you're not going to be able to get LeBron James's autograph. But if you come to Las Vegas before the pandemic and you want to see a Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder or, a Canelo Alvarez, they'll take time after the grand arrivals and they'll be signing autographs and you can take a photo with them and stuff. That's unprecedented access. That's what makes our sport so great, that we are all about giving back to the fans, and the fans give the fighters respect and love and admiration. Just mutual, man.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I remember I actually just looking at it right now. I think I'm almost at 2 years to the day since I last went out and covered a boxing show, and that was at Madison Square Garden. And it feels like forever. It honestly has felt very weird. I mean, it's gotten to a point where I'm now used to it, where I have to wake up. Just for example, we had to wake up pretty early to cover a Zoom press call for a boxing card in the UK, and that's kind of been the new normal, where I'm just sitting here in the office like 8, 10, 12 hours a day instead of maybe potentially going out, planning trips. It has felt a little weird, but it's kind of now gotten to a point where it's kind of become the new normal. Not necessarily a normal that I like, but it's something that now it's kind of gotten used to at this point.
Well, hopefully with people getting vaccinated and arenas opening up and fans coming back, hopefully it won't be the new normal, because would I be opposed to not having any more Zoom press conferences and having 20,000 fans in an arena and having open press conference like how we used to do? Absolutely. And I hope we get back to that really soon. And you know what, Carlos, I'm optimistic. I think we're getting close, my friend.
Yeah, we're getting really close. A lot of people are getting vaccinated. You and I were talking last week. We both got our first shots. I just got my confirmation that I'm getting the second vaccine in on April 19th. So hopefully by the end of this year, I'll have been already to a couple of big shows.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's the most important thing, is to have everyone back, because the accessibility that we get, or that you guys fighters give, when you're physically there and don't have to social distance and can just be genuine, and hopefully without fear of COVID-19, it's on a different level. I think the fighters are more open. I think you guys are at your best when you're physically there. So, hopefully we're getting closer to that.
you know, and we're getting in another big fight that is going to have some type of a fan attendance there, even though it's a limited capacity. We got Andy Ruiz and Chris Arreola coming up on May 1st on PBC on Fox pay-per-view. You've been, as I mentioned, you're hosting the pay-per-view undercard Zoom call very soon. You hosted the main event Zoom call. And really, I mean, disregarding the fact whether or not this is the main event is pay-per-view worthy, when you look at the card, it's a very good show. And you got in the main event Arreola and Ruiz, who are both coming off of loss, a good crossroads fight. We both know both of these guys have given us some really good fights in the past. When you look at sort of, at this fight and this whole card, what exactly sort of stands out to you? I mean, we also got guys like Sebastian Fundora, who's quickly becoming a lot of people's favorite up-and-coming fighter, especially at a loaded 154-pound division. What about this whole event kind of stands out to you?
Well, I mean, obviously, Andy Ruiz, Arreola, they are the most, obviously, Andy Ruiz becoming the only Mexican heavyweight champion ever. He made, history a couple of years ago against Anthony Joshua. Chris Arreola, to my knowledge, is the first Mexican to challenge for the heavyweight championship of the world. So Chris was the OG, and Andy sort of kind of came in there and even furthered the legacy of what Chris was able to do. There's mutual admiration between the two. But when that bell rings on Saturday, May 1st at Dignity Health Sports Park on PBC Fox Sports pay-per-view, that goes out the window. And you have two great trainers. You got the legendary Joe Goose training Chris Arreola. And Joe's not going to waste his time with just anybody. If you're going to be trained by Joe Goosen, you're going to bring your best. You're going to be in top shape. You're going to be most focused that you ever have into a prize fight. So you're going to get the best Chris Arreola on first. And Ruiz working with Eddie Reynoso. Eddie Reynoso, best trainer in the game, hands down. Canelo, Ryan Garcia, Oscar Valdez. You see the shape that Andy Ruiz is in. The one thing that Eddie Reynoso kept saying during that main press conference, that main event press conference last week, is he goes, I want to congratulate Andy for the work that he put in, time he's been in the gym, his effort, his attention to reinventing himself. I think we get the best Andy Ruiz that we've seen in a long, long time. And I think that for as long as we're going to get an excellent heavyweight slugfest. And at Dignity Health Sports Park, there's something about that venue where madness happens. I mean, Provodnikov and Bradley, Vasquez and Marquez, you can go down the list and just continue, Josecito Lopez, Marcos Maidana, and just epic confrontations. And I think this one is going to be bombs away from the moment the bell rings to however long it takes. Plus, I like seeing Jesus Ramos is taking, he's got a step-up fight. He's going to be taking on Javier Molina. Molina, 2008 U.S. Olympian. He's been around a long time. Sebastian Fundora, to me, is so unique and exciting. 6'6" tall, undefeated, quiet kid. He looks like he should be a basketball player, and he likes to fight on the inside and throw bombs, taking on Jorge Cota, who's been around the got Omar Figueroa Jr., Abel Ramos. They're going to beat the heck out of each other because both guys only know one speed. And that speed has nothing to do with defense. It's all offense. So expect a high volume punch output in that fight. This is the part I'm pumped about.
Yeah, and you mentioned, this is a card that's gonna bring a lot of good action fights, and at the very least, I can certainly appreciate that we're getting guys who are certainly going to go out there and entertain. And speaking of entertainment, we got technically next week,
Yes.
the Triller Show on April 17th with Paul and Ben Askren in the main event. We got a couple of undercard fights. You're gonna be calling the undercard if I have correctly. And we got
The
Regis.
whole show. I'm calling the entire show.
You're holding the entire show. I mean,
Yeah.
you're doing everything.
I'm
And
very fortunate, Carlos.
and this is a very interesting thing that Triller is doing. I mean, we saw, with last year with Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, and we're getting a more, a lot of integration into boxing, a mix between the entertainment aspect of everything and boxing kind of just coming together. And I'm very curious, your personal thoughts on how Triller is sort of approaching this from a boxing perspective, because we know, they're going to be doing a lot more boxing. We're getting Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos at some point later this year. So it's not like they just did one boxing fight and they're done. It does kind of look like they're going to be sticking around, and in front of, I mean, we're going to get some world-class championship fights, and we starting with Teofimo.
Well, yeah, and also, you got Oscar De La Hoya coming back July 3rd on Triller. He announced that during the Jake Paul Ben Askren comments. I love what Triller is doing. And you know what, Carlos? I'm honored to be a part of Triller Fight Club, because I think that they can change the sport, because they understand what it is to bring entertainment to the younger generation. It is this wonderful balance of new school and old school. You're going to get some quality fights. Look, Regis Prograis, former world champion at 140, taking on Red Catch, who took Danny Garcia the distance, which is no easy feat whatsoever. You got Steve Cunningham against Frank Mir. Mir looks in impeccable shape, former heavyweight champion of the world. You get a little bit of everything. You got Jake Paul, who's only 2-0, who's making a big name for himself. The kid knows how to market himself brilliantly. And you got Ben Askren, and people are like, oh, well, Ben Askren. Well, Ben Askren is making his pro boxing debut, but everywhere that Ben Askren has been in his career, he hasn't. Numerous time NCAA champion in wrestling, in the NCAA, went ahead and Bellator champion, to the UFC, 5 UFC contender. And they're going back and forth. I love the gamesmanship between the two. You got a heck of a music standpoint. And then you get a quality fight in the summertime with George Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez. So they're giving you something for everybody. And I think they're marketing it right. I love what they're doing. They got, by the way, Carlos, the right man to lead their boxing operations. One of the smartest guys in boxing, one of the most genuine guys in boxing, one of the most humble guys in boxing, in Peter Kahn. Peter Kahn is the kind of guy that no matter what's going on, if you call him or text him, he's going to call you back within an hour. And even though he's working on multi-million-dollar deals for his fighters, when do you get that in this sport? Not rarely or not often. So it's very rare what Peter has done and what he continues to do. I think he's the right man to lead Triller, along with the entire team. Snoop is so passionate about him. He's kind of promoting him. And I love everything that they're doing. And I'm so honored to be a part of it. I can't wait to get rocking on April 17th.
First of all, I will go on the record, and I've said this in the past. I very much enjoy Snoop Dogg on commentary, whether he was doing it in UFC or doing it in boxing. I very much enjoyed. I've gone on the record saying, I will say it again, I love Snoop. How much are you looking forward to hanging around Snoop and with the rest of the Mount Westmore crew? Which, by the way, that is something I'm so very much enjoying, that the performance that we're going to get from Mount Westmore.
Oh, 1,000%. Listen, Snoop is so passionate about combat sports and fighting that, I am pumped just to be able to work with him and just kind of allow him to do what he does, because, I'm going to do my job, but I can't work with him to bounce ideas off of him, to respond and have this banter between him and myself. And, Alberti and Mike Coppinger and Mario Lopez and Pete Davidson and the D'Amelio twins. And, I'm missing somebody, Carlos, but they have a model as well. And I'm just excited to work with this entire star-studded group on the air because all of us are so excited. And the bottom line, Carlos, is we're passionate about what Fight Club is all about. Ryan Kavanaugh is a mastermind and is really doing as much as he can to provide resources to ensure that Triller Fight Club is successful for years to come. And all I'm telling people on April 17th, when you order you're going to get entertainment for those 4 hours, wall-to-wall entertainment, fun fights, exciting fights, kick-ass, some of the biggest artists in the world, Justin Bieber, Doja Cat, Major Lazer, that super group. I mean, it's going to be off the charts.
I love the enthusiasm and your energy and your excitement regarding this show and really just everything you do. And one thing that I would say kind of caught me off guard in a good way was that when it was announced not too long ago that you were calling MLW, Major League Wrestling, and you did their Never Say Never show in not too long ago. And I'm very curious, how did the MLW Ray Flores relationship start? Where did it start to kind of lead you into calling that event for MLW?
Well, so I am now with MLW moving forward and calling their regular TVs. The only time you won't hear me is when they go back in their vault from years ago and stuff like that. So I've known Power since 2015. The company still exists to this day. Combate Americas is when Court and I sort of started working because Court was the creative standpoint, production wise, and I was brought in to be the play-by-play man, the ring announcer, and Court and I hit it off right away. I love what Court is doing with MLW because he is growing the company at the right speed. He understands professional wrestling and he puts people in positions to succeed. The only thing in life you can ask for, Carlos, is an opportunity, and Court people an opportunity, and he doesn't micromanage them. So when I started doing Big Ten wrestling, him and I started talking, and he was like, I was like, hey, I'm like, I love what you guys are doing because that's the product. I'm like, I love what you guys are doing. I would love to be able to work with you again because I'll be honest, Carlos, I learned a lot working with Court Bauer and his entire team. I ring announced for an MLW show a couple of years ago when they came to Chicago, and then got still busy with PBC. And when we started talking, he's like, there's an opportunity here, and I jumped all over it. And working with Saint Laurent and working with their entire staff and world-class production staff, I'm learning a lot, and I love professional wrestling. I mean, I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, and I was a Hulkamania kid. I was a Hulk Hogan kid, and I saw and I listened to the likes of Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan, Jesse the Body Ventura, Vince McMahon, and Gene Okerlund, masters in sportscasting. So to be able to call pro wrestling is something that I love, enjoying it, and I cannot wait to move forward with MLW.
With so many great things about MLW from its stars, from guys like Jacob Fatu and Alex Hammerstone, two of my favorite guys in wrestling right now, where do you can see the strengths of what makes MLW so unique from any of the other big companies in professional wrestling?
Well, the way that it's approached is like a big prize fight. That's why, for me, it's an easy transition because they do the tail of the tapes. There's such an emphasis on wins and losses and, going up the ranks in professional wrestling within MLW. I love the factions. I love, Contra and Dynasty and, Injustice. There's so many young, hungry guys. As I look at it, you also have, Azteca Underground, and I'm trying to find out who El Jefe is and stuff like that. So, you have unique characters. You have, a bit of everything. You got high flyers. You have big, strong guys like Alex Hammerstone. You have the Samoan and Jacob Fatu. You have old school guys, not old school guys, but you have guys that have been around that are veterans in, Davari and stuff, Mil Martez brutality, because we see a lot of guys. I mean, there's physical matches. Jacob Fatu and Calvin Takeman was a very physical match. I mean, it was hard hitting. You saw a variety of different things, and also too with them, you're watching guys that are 350, between 300 to 350 pounds that are doing suicide topes. But then at the same time, they can be physical and crash into each other with shoulder blocks and show you, the strength and the power game in professional wrestling. These guys can do it all, and I love calling MLW wrestling.
We're going to let you go. I got a couple of rapid fire questions. One, what's been the favorite event that you have had a chance to work on, whether it be ring announcing, broadcasting, hosting, whatever? What's been your favorite event that you've ever worked on?
The Mayweather-McGregor tour, specifically Mayweather-McGregor in London, when I was in between both of them. The first time they'd been in a boxing, 11,500 fans. Of that, half of them came from Ireland to support McGregor, and the electricity in that building was unbelievable. That, to me, is my number one.
I was in Brooklyn for that leg of the press tour, and I can tell you that it was chaos over there. It was insane. Who has been your favorite fighter or person in boxing that you've worked on as a broadcaster?
That I've worked and that I've been around, like that I called their fights, or that I worked with?
Worked with.
I would say Joe Goosen is my number one guy, because Joe is a legend. I grew up watching Joe, on pay-per-view and listening to his brilliance in the corners. And I mean, he was in the corner of Diego Chico Corrales against Jose Luis Castillo, one of the greatest fights of all time, that legendary 10th round that will forever stand the test of time. To be able to work with Joe, to be able to learn from him, to be able to bounce ideas off of him, Joe Goosen to me is my number one. I mean, when I use the word love, I know I've been throwing it out like that, but I really love Joe Goosen as my broadcast partner, and I've learned so much from him. I'm eternally grateful.
Who in boxing could you see be a great broadcaster who hasn't had much of a chance to do broadcasting anyway? One guy that stood out to me that I wish actually could do more announcing, because I know how smart he is Keith Thurman. He is ridiculously knowledgeable, and I think he'd be great as a broadcaster. So in your eyes, who do you think could be a good broadcaster in boxing?
Who I want to see get more opportunities is Chris Algieri, because I think Chris Algieri is brilliant. I mean, he's a dietitian. The guy fought Pacquiao. He understands what it is to go from the club level to world championship material. I mean, he literally is an unbelievable story. He understands all aspects of boxing. I hope that Chris Algieri gets more high-profile opportunities.
I agree. Chris is incredible at what he does, as a broadcaster. And before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, from one baseball fan to another. You're a White Sox fan. I'm a New York Yankees fan. Both of our teams not so hot starts to the season. Oh. What do you make of your White Sox kind of going starting 2-3?
Well, you know what? At least they won yesterday against the Seattle Mariners and stuff. So they should have at least split the pair in Anaheim. But look, it's early, but you can't be down 8 or 9 games at the end of the month. Honest with you, though, Carlos, I think it's going to be the White Sox and the Yankees battling it out for the American League, and I can't wait. So we'll have a friendly wager when that time comes in October.
Absolutely. I will hold you to that. I will hold you to the Yankees and the White Sox meet in October. I will hold you to a friendly wager. I don't know what it is, but we'll think of something.
Absolutely.
Ray, where can the good people find you on social media?
Carlos, SBR Flores on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well. Big events coming up April 17th, Triller Fight Club pay-per-view, Ben Askren. April 20th, I'll be on FS1 doing that. And then obviously May 1st, the PBC Fox Sports pay-per-view, Andy Ruiz and Chris Arreola. Fun times to come in the spring and the summer for boxing, combat sports, and also the world of MLW. April 14th, it'll be Mil Muertes and Alex Hammerstone. Can't wait to be on the call of that one.
Oh, that's going to be an awesome match. Ray, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me. You are an extremely busy guy, but I'm happy to see you putting in the work, and I'm happy to see you everywhere in boxing and wrestling. And I look forward to talking to you soon, my friend.
Thanks, Carlos. Have a great one, man. All the best to your listeners and viewers.